Hey guys, Boris here, bringing you another VOD review. Today we're going to be jumping in game with Kiyoon, who's during his Boxbox Bootcamp climb doing a 24-hour stream, and we have already slotted in an Arbiter here. Ideally, what for Arbiters that we were looking for, since we already have the bow, it's a clear selection we could be considering it, is getting on 10 instances of damage dealt, gain mana. Other stats are fine, but mana makes the Zoe unit absolutely pop off, and also would enable LeBlanc to permacast. Otherwise, printing Leonis for tempo is quite great, or you could be looking for some kind of AP or attack speed scaling options. Unfortunately, it does not seem that we get really offered any of these. Every 4 seconds is going to be this is going to be a little bit too slow. Permanent max health is okay, but essentially it's going to only benefit your Leona, and therefore picking up a generic econ option is going to be quite fine, especially if you're able to drag out these fights a little bit longer with every 4 seconds. Otherwise, we have hold on to these primary LDR units, have also holding onto this Teemo. I would imagine we're going to be picking up a Teemo pair from here. Teemo generally one of the better options to transition any form of your Rage Blade specifically, or AP comps into something later on. And the unit itself is very strong in stage 2. And we have held on to this Diana just to increase our odds. For our Augment selection coming up on here on 2-1, Money Hungry would be a general econ option we could be considering. Bodyguard training got nerfed again, and I'm not too hot on it ever since. Would ideally be playing into these LeBlanc comps where you can have you have those Vanguards, so having a little bit of armor and MMR on them is quite good. But this 2 tanky Augment here right now, we have a Spear of Shojin and it is playing into Samira. It's pretty much, I would say, an instant take. However, you have to be wary that you're not contested into this lobby, as it can be offered to many players, and a lot of players will just let it rip. Makeshift Armor is a combat on 2-1 that's not going to be generally quite strong unless you're very sure that you can win streak, and we do not really have the board for that. Worth the wait to something that could provide us with a direction and a little bit of an econ and tempo for stage 3. Generally a good augment, but this 2 tanky right now is just absolutely strong. So we're able to pick up a Leona pair, so slot that in already for our 2 tanky right now. Going to be playing this board and hopefully able to farm a little bit of an econ as we're playing into this Samira comp. Ideally for the Samira, you're looking for a Spear of Shojin, i.e. those are the 2 core items that you definitely want to be sorted out, and afterwards Deathblade or a Giant Slayer. So this comp is extremely heavy on swords, and sometimes you might want to be simply lost streaking in order to be picking up these extra swords from your component anvils, as there's no way you can really guarantee them all off the carousel anymore. If there was a carousel, I'm sure that the swords would be a little bit more open, since the AD is not really that prime into the current meta. Able to go on a 2 streak here as we're queuing into weaker players that are pretty much low streaking in order themselves in order to ensure the econ advantage. We see a Spatula there already being an augment that in other metas was just absolutely abysmal, but the emblems are so strong, and especially provides you with something like a Space Groove option to be playing into, which is the prime comp to be picking up now. Nova is also fine, but I would not be taking Earths to play into a Nova itself. Speaking of Nova, we see there's a Nova Meeple player right here, slamming that Edge of Night, most likely playing for that Master Yi duo. Again, emblem augments being clicked all around these top lobbies. You just find them, you click them. And we're also on ourselves holding onto these Timebreaker units as a potential to be slotted in. Now that we're going on a lost streak, we could be considering slotting them in. For our God selection, we are playing with a Soraka and a Thresh. Thresh is generally, these boons are quite decent. They're going to be a little bit higher value than the general boons if you are offered one that you don't particularly like for your spot and you like the component. But you definitely do not want to be aligning yourself with Thresh. This guy is going to have absolutely no value for you all the rest of the stage 5 and until you get to something like a 6-3. Now, if you want to be lost streaking all the way to say maybe like even 3-5 or start of stage 4, Soraka here wouldn't be that bad of an option. However, I believe that we are liking our belts a little bit more than the cloak right now. But cloak is also fine, since the claw in the current meta is quite fine. But since we're playing around bastions, having them extra HP is quite good. Also, this could become something like a Striker's Flail if we're able to pick up extra gloves, which is a serviceable item for the Samira as well. Now, We do get our pocket recombobulator, which is simply going to be a little bit of an extra gold that we're able to recombob a unit. Going to be giving up on these Trambaker units right now, so going to be valuing playing a little bit of a stronger board in order to preserve HP. The issue with these 3-cost reroll comps at the moment is that they can fall off quite heavily into stage 4 when everyone is rolling down for their boards, and you want to be entering there ideally with an HP advantage over the rest of the board. We see an IE slam there with a heroic grab bag. Are they going to be playing into some form of Ezreal Cho reroll? That would be very interesting. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure where the IE leads you with heroic grab bag. Otherwise, we can see that the Stargazer constellation is the medallion, which means that, yeah, there's most likely going to be a TF player. If you have the spot, that is always something you want to be playing. As a medallion, Bakes is probably the best comp in the game. Did not get to exactly streak, but 3 wins is going to be quite fine. Again, valuing that HP preservation quite high, and we see that there's another 2 tanky player in the lobby now. This is going to be an interesting one, since, well, the Augment can be offered to multiple people, right? But I do not think there's really that many other comps that's going to be playing for it. The reason why this Samira comp benefits so well is because slotting in 2 Orns is going to sort out your itemization situation. Orn is going to be able to print an item, the extra Orn that you're going to be slotting in, and generally in these comps you lacked in terms of items, plus it synergizes, right? The Samiras, whenever something gets knocked up, 2 Samiras shooting a unit which you also ideally have itemized is going to be quite strong, and then you just filler out with the rest of the other units for synergies. The general comp can be found on most of the stat sites, but let's see how Kiyoon manages to approach it with this with this post that is quite contested, so it's going to be interesting. Slamming that red buff, slamming that even, try to sort out our utility, so we do not have to be worrying about that later. Also allows us a way to be sort of killing off the extra bows that we might not be interested in. Now, since we are contested already, I would assume that teaming up is going to be immense value. That is going to be probably the best augment we could be seeing here whenever we are contested. Vampiric Vitality is something that more... gaining a little bit of normal vamp is fine, but it's more going to be more into these melee comps. Something like a Nova could perhaps use this quite decently. Teaming up, combo component, Beacon is quite fine. Just quickly to look at the other options that we get offered. Group Hug is generally quite strong, and Second Win as well are good options. Second Win, especially for something like if you're running a Brawler frontline. And Group Hug in general is also, actually, I don't think that bad for this comp. Depends, since you want to be probably slotting in Stargazers, then you might have not wanted to know what the constellation is if you're going to be able to utilize it decently. But teaming up is just the best option we can be offered right now. Still are a little bit on the poorer side, so hoping that this Arbiter can provide us a little bit of extra gold. We are still holding on to these Timebreaker units, just the Ezreal, I would say. We'll have to think if... we got 3 gold there, so it's a little bit more than a single reroll, especially as gold because it allows us to make econ interests. I hope he comes back in time in order to pick up the sword. There we go, welcome back. With an Orn pair, it's already interesting. We could be considering perhaps starting to, in some way, to slowly transition our board, especially if we found a second Samira. I would assume that's what we're going to be going with. Otherwise, queue into this Pandora's Medallion player, one of the better ways how you can be playing into the any form of a 1-cost reroll. Also going to be great for your Teemo. Now, for our next selection right here, now we pretty much have to align, I would assume, ourselves with the Soraka. That would be the best option, and it provides us with a glove for that IE. It's exactly what we want, plus we can have the Blessing of the Size. It's going to be generally nice for any form of a... Whenever you want to be funneling extra power into a single unit, right? Whenever you're re-rolling or you're having your mech guy right there, having him that extra HP is simply going to be even more valuable. A little bit less of a value on something like a Brawler unit, but that's fine. For a Bastions and Vanguards, this is going to be quite decent. Into a what seems to be player playing an Anima cash out for a potential to spike on us, the later spike for the form of a 4-cost board. Looks like, yeah, it looks like they're going for that Nami. They have that Earth, they have the Nami on a bench already, so going to be utilizing that for extra resources. Ideally, the Anima tank items are what really can make your tanks pop off and make your boards quite strong. So since we are on the poorer side, we have to be going for a slow 11 here, going to be pre-leveling onto the 4-1, and then hopefully the contesting player has not already panic sent down the rest of their gold, and we're able to pick up our copies. And we'll have to hope that the lobby doesn't spike too hard either, as we are at 53 HP here. We have to be hopefully queuing into a little bit of a weaker players. Able to pick up a Nunu pair, which is quite nice. If we're able to find a Nunu too, that would be definitely making our board quite strong. It's going to be interesting to see how he manages to navigate this spot. Also a Zaya there, which is the sniper that you want to be slotting in for. Able to find our now Ornn 2 within second Ornn, going to use the Recon Bob 4. And we found a Jax, which also fits this board extremely well. Yeah, I guess we want to be having the Stargazer. And Medallion is actually not going to be the worst one. Although, yeah, it scales with all star powers. So, if we are able to get there, this is actually going to be quite good for ourselves, having a little bit of an extra damage amp on ourselves. Obviously overlap there with the sniper trait, but that's still fine. Now, one of the best augments I would say that we can see here at the prismatic tier is going to be Sword Overflow. We have still an open component, so we could be so I would assume that we're just going to be slamming a Death Blade right there, and then we can either look for a Giant Slayer or just slam another Death Blade and transition this red buff onto a Zaya, which I would assume we're going to be dropping the second Nunu in form of a second Samira. And if we 2-star her, can be knowing that they're sweet treats. I do not think there's really any great artifact for this comp. Trifecta is also an interesting option, but we're going to be running at least 4 3 costs. And if both of these go to our frontline, I'm not exactly sure. A little bit of an overlap with Two Tanky as well. I think that the Sword Overflow augment here is the absolute best option. Bronze for Life is going to have a little bit of value. And Jeweled Lotus, we have that IE. And this is absolutely now a prime spot if you're just simply able to find our units. Have to dig deep here for that Samira. And the thing is with this Two Tanky, you always want to be digging even deeper for another copy once you find your first one. Able to find another Shojin, so we're starting to already itemize for that second Samira, right? That's the great read, having another Shojin, and didn't find an IE, but it's going to be fine. This is going to be only a 2-star copy. We want to be stacking this 3-star as much, and Samira is, and we're going to have this item hold for now. Still digging right here. Able to find 3 Space Groove. That's just the way you want to be going about this, and still no luck in finding that another Samira into this medallion. It seems level 8. They seem to have tempoed off from a 3-star TF and talent. That's an interesting choice. I assume they might have been contested, but the reason what makes this comp absolutely pop off is the Jax 3. The Jax 3-star is an absolute monster of a unit. Now, we already have so many swords, and obviously we could use more, but again, do not want to be aligning ourselves with Thresh, so we might just have to be picking up the Soraka Blessing right now. Also, since we're going to be a little bit lower on HP, we might be just losing an extra 2 rounds. Securing a potential placement is there great. And since we're last pick, we find a Blitzcrank, so this Nasus can already immediately go off our board. And yeah, since there are so many Space Group players, finding some of our units might be a little bit tough. That's why these dupes are absolutely immense value for ourselves. We are also holding, I just noticed, we're holding onto these 7 copies of the Jax, so we are preventing this medallion players from realistically performing that great in this lobby, since again, the Jax is just a busted unit. And this is an Ezreal Cho reroll here with a Heroic Grab Bag and a Tai Slam right there. Obviously, probably a chat favorite type of comp, but it can perform from very niche spots, something like a Heavy of the Crown, or if you're able to fully, with something like a Yasuo Hexes, stack up that Cho'Gath and have also Ezreal, it's a comp that you definitely want to be spiking quite hard, and we can see that they did manage to find their Jax 3 from that Pandora's bench. Into a Zoe. This is also an interesting thing. The other player seems to have pivoted off into a Zoe Leona, some kind of a board for this Two Tanky. Well, now that since they hit the 3-star, they seem to be definitely quite strong, but we'll have to take note of what their placement is going to be. Potential insights into some form of an out one could be considering. as if you get contested, you're not going to have the greatest of the times. Opting to making the decision there to make that Xayah 2, figuring that the investment is going to be worth. Now we theoretically have our Samira 3, but are we going to be pulling the trigger just yet? Obviously we want to be making that to the Warren 3. This is what fully makes this comp actually function. And also we can see that he's opting not to play the second Samira, going to be item holding that Xayah until we get to those 3 stars, as perhaps valuing the trait value a little bit more than the 2 tanky value. Having it on frontline is obviously great since it provides an extra amount of health, I believe. And having that sniper, I mean, we have Deadblade, so I'm not sure if the sniper, but Medallion, I guess it's assuming that the Medallion and the sniper in itself is just a combination of both of those is going to be sufficient amount of damage. Now have opted to drop the Blitzcrank here. Do not really value that Vanguard that high in this Nunu, as the Blitz one is not without items, not going to provide that much value. And we are probably just going to be donkey rolling here until we can hit, but we have to do that quite soon. We are one off. Are debating, yeah, going to be making that Orn 3 just to stabilize here, as we are 2 lives, and hope that we are able to pick up another single Samira and have that sorted out. Into again this 2 tanky board, but quickly just let's take a note what they have on their board. So they are running with a double. They're not running a double Zoe. They are running simply a double Ilawi, double Mordekaiser, and keeping the traits right there, having that Shepherd in right through there. That's an interesting option. I would be definitely considering that we want to be holding on to perhaps maybe this another Zoe, but it's just how do you otherwise slot this board on level 7? I could definitely see this as an option if you know that your Arbiter is going to be that damage on 10 instances of damage dealt, gain mana, and then you would have a 2 tanky Zoe that's absolutely able to pop off with quite beefy on front line. So maybe some insights right there of how to be playing this Augment in case you get contested. But we can see that this Ornus just simply became unkillable right now. It's going to constantly knock up, and the double Samiras are going to be taking them out. I'm not sure what their Arbiter is. Did not seem to be the one that enables the Zoe to absolutely go bonkers. So I'd assume that you would definitely be looking for 2 specific conditions. Going to be picking up another tank item right now. Could consider already transitioning perhaps the items from the Nunu. I mean, Vow is obviously amazing for Nunu, so maybe a little bit more value in that form of a stun. Able to finally find our Samira 3, so we're going to be off to the races now in order to try to secure any form of placements. Soraka is putting us at a comfortable 2 HP lead, but I'm not sure if the game is going to be long enough for us to go to the 3 lives. But still very close fight. This Nami comp absolutely insane in this power. And ideally for our Nunu, still the Nunu with Nunu's targeting, it is a little bit sketch of how to figure out where he's going to be targeting. But if ideally, you just want to be keeping him on the same side as the enemy carries, and he's going to hopefully able to hit the clump. Now into these Shen boards, if you're able to make them state group, you're able to definitely get a lot of value from the stun. And we can see this comp is taking over the Nova board. Now obviously the hard part of this comp is actually getting to your units. 3 cost 3 row whenever you're taking from a combat augment and 2-1 is going to be a little bit rough of an option. But if you're able to get there, it's going to be quite strong. And now we will be simply just looking to itemize another form of a tank unit or anything for our Xayah right now. Since we have 2 items, just getting a third one under the noob would be fine. So going with the Steadfast. I'm still debating right now if putting the items on the second Warrant could be more worthwhile. Obviously, again, Protector's Vow, great value for the Nunu to get the stun off into this LeBlanc. I'm able to exactly hit the backline and stall for them, which is amazing. But having that extra Radiant item in the power could be just very strong. And it seems that we're just farming this 2 tanky player there with no matter how they position against us. Having that little bit of a luck since it's a measure that we seem to be winning, and right there they had queued into our declaw perfectly into against the Medallion player. So let's see how we perform against them. Now this the thing with Jax, you definitely want to be having the crown down for him to stall, and we're just able to run over. Sometimes these medallion, the thing with the medallion is that the TF has that immense amount of burst here, so he's able to take you out. But since we just were able to blow up this Jax, whenever a knockup goes, you can see how low his HP goes, and he does not have that extra healing in him, and you're just able to run over. So this is competing with the best comps in the game, simply through that stat value. Having that extra items being printed and the Samira synergizing, just simply providing an immense amount of burst on the front lines. That's why also GS in one part is not going to be as great as first your sniper is going to provide you with damage jump. Now, especially for ourselves, we have the damage jump there. Now you say DB has damage jump as well, but it just simply has a raw amount of AD on a lot higher department. DB and that cap 2 items that are performing extremely well in the current set. And we are in the top 4 here streaking, so is there a question if anyone's going to be able to stop us right now? We'll have to scout since we've been fighting the same players. Now this Nami board is a little bit scary, and it seems that there's also a fast 9 player right there. If we see a Fiora 2 coming in for our item here, we have, like, I would assume we could be considering. Again, going to transition the items finally to their second Ornn. So going to be going there. Now this anima cash out Nami board is going to be extremely strong. Riven 2 is able to, Blitzcrank is pushing back our Ornn, and that's going to mess up the positioning for our department. And this seems to be that this Nami comp right there is going, still, this Ornn is absolutely refusing to die since we rolled a Radiant Declaw, and our 3-star Samira managed to survive it at the extra amount, but this player is extremely scary for ourselves. And we do not have the Blitzcrank on our own to provide even more amount of knockups, so you have to be playing this Teemo, which is kind of a dead unit. And we are now queuing into this Victor reroll board. We have also picked up, oh, this big Pike 3, but oh, there's a Pike Hero Augment board with the Victor. Yeah, could be quite decent of an option, and they are having that, again, this is the way you can get through this comp, by having that burst on the Ornn, but they do not have the amount of burst for the second Ornn, since we have another Radiant item on our board, and this is where you get the stat value. You're simply stat checking all these comps. Some of the bigger burster comps, the Ornn is able to live. I said it earlier that he's a little bit weaker on the stage too with the squishiness, but whenever you get these 3 items and a Radiant item on him, he's an absolute monster with even a combat augment specifically pumping a little bit more HP into him. Still just donkey rolling here in hopes and able to find a Blitzcrank. I'm going to pick up a TG and see that it's a frontlight one, so we're going to be slotting that in. Now, okay, this is where all the Blitzcranks have gone. The player has 6 Blitzcranks. But again, they are queuing into this Radiant Declaw, so we're harrowing our Radiant item once again. The Riven does make to our backline, and now that it is going to be, yes, our Samira gets chipped through that, and they simply have the 2 Blitzcranks to displace our frontline completely. So we are having quite a lot of troubles. And are they even running with a couple of Space Groove emblems? I do not see the... So they have, it seems that they have opted to pass upon the Riven carry in favor of having another Blitzcrank. This is a neat thing to note, that Riven can be also played as AP. It's generally played as AD, but you can play her as AP and you're going to be quite fine. And then having that items on the second Blitzcrank is obviously going to be a lot higher of a value. So quickly just reviewing the fight, the Blitzcranks are absolutely popping off. And our Ornn, now that he is being collapsed down, is not going to be able to provide. We get a little bit splash from the Blitzcranks on our backline, so then the Nami splash is going to be starting to take our Samiras down, and that is how they're going to be taking you out without getting access to your backline. But very well piloted spot by Kiyoon, recognizing obviously the spot read, playing around that early game, trying to preserve amount of HP as we picked up an econ auction, but we did not fully commit to our econ, and especially since we consider we might be contested. And that HP preservation allowed us to drag the game for long enough in order to find ourselves in position to be able to hit and then go play for a win out, since this comp is able to provide amount of stats, and we are able to pick up amazing item augments, so we're able to just simply throw extra items and actually have the best items for our units right here. I would hope you enjoyed watching and you learned something new. I definitely find this comp as a very fun one and can't wait to try it out in my own games. And I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.